So Sandeep and Rahil, today we are going to discuss what is virtual networks. Okay, and why we require the virtual networks. Okay, so our topic is virtual network. What is virtual network and its component? Okay, so do you, Sandeep and Rahil, may I know, do you have basic knowledge on IP addresses or not? Should I repeat the IP addresses concept?
Actually, what I know is host name and IP address and port, and also some basic commands like telnet ping and telnet ping. Yes, and if config, ns lookup, that kind of commands.
Okay, so and what about the Sandeep? Hello, Sandeep. You are on the mute.
Yes, tell me, Akshay.
Yeah. So do you have knowledge of IP addresses? What kind of IP addresses? What is the class of IP addresses?
I have little knowledge, but not an expert actually. Class A, Class B, Class C, Class D, but we won't use all classes of IP address in real time. I think Class A and B is used, and CD is used for only research purpose. That's what I know.
Okay. So it is enough. Okay. It is enough for the IP addresses related. But if you stuck anything related in the IP address, please let me know so I can explain to you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is first thing is what is virtual network? Okay. A virtual network represent your network or environment to run your virtual machines or applications. Okay, means suppose you have a network. Suppose this is your Azure account. In your Azure account, you have subscription. You have subscription like pay as you go, and in your subscription, you have resource group. You may have the multiple resource group over here. In the resource group, you have multiple virtual networks. Okay, in the virtual network, you create multiple resources like your virtual machines and your databases and all the things. Okay, so it's required a network to provide connectivity between the machine, between the network, or between the subnets. So machines always required a network to connect. Got it? If I want to connect a machine, then it's required a network. It's required a medium. This is called the network. Okay, and it's provide a isolated environment. It's provide a isolated environment means every virtual network is isolated from each other by default. Every virtual network is isolated from each other. Means this is VNet 1, virtual network 1, and this is VNet 2. VNet 2. It's cannot connect with each other by default. We need to make pairing between these. Then we only able to connect one machine to another machine. Got it? That's why we require the virtual network. Virtual network is a isolated environment to run your VM and application. A subnet in a subnet, uh, subnet is a part of your network. It's divide your network into subnetworks. Means if you have a subnet, like let me clear all the things. If you have a subnet like this 10.0.0.0/16 means you can divide your network into subnetwork. You can divide your this network into a subnetwork, means you can create multiple IPs over here. How many IPs you create? You can create to the power 16 IP addresses. You can create to the power 16 IP addresses over here in this subnet. Means to the power 16 means let's calculate with me. Equal to 65536 addresses you can define into this subnet. Okay, but we have some predefined IP addresses here. We cannot use the network address here or the broadcast address here. The network ID of this IP, the network ID is 10 dot. This is a class A IP address. So the network ID is 10.0.0.0 and the broadcast ID is the maximum, the last number of IP. So the last number of that IP is 10.0.255.255. This is the last number of the IP. Got it, Sandeep? If there is any confusion, please let me know.
Yeah. Can you repeat this again? 10.00 by 16, 2 power 16 is equal to like that.
Okay. So let me once more it. So this is the class A IP addresses, and this is the custom subnet. By default, class A IP address have the /8. /8 means the let me draw a diagram for you once. Okay. Let me draw a diagram. Suppose I have this is the class A and this is the class B and this is the class C. Okay, so in class A, let me write it here. Class A. And this is the class B. Class C. Okay, so in class A and class B and class C, so you already know IPv4 have 4 octet. IPv4, IP version 4 have the 4 octet. It's work on the 4 octet. Means each block have 1 octet. And class A and also IP version v4 works on the host ID, network ID, network ID and plus host ID. Network plus host. It's work on the network plus host. Means in class A, first block is represent the network ID. In class B, first two block represent the network ID. This is also represent the network ID, and in class C, this is represent the network ID. Okay, and for the other blocks in class A, first block only represent the network ID and other blocks represent the host ID. Other block represent the host ID, means if I have a IP, let me first fill it, the host ID over here. H for the host and N for the network. Means I have a IP addresses. I have a IP addresses like that. Means I have IP address something like that. 20.10.15.10. So I have IP addresses like this. So Sandeep, please let me know what is the class of this IP addresses. This is the class A IP addresses. Okay, this is the class A, and class A by default network ID is first octet, means the network ID of this IP is 20 dot network ID is 20.0.0.0, and the broadcast ID is last number of the IP. Broadcast ID is 20.255.255.255. Okay, got it? And
1 minute.
yes,
So broadcast ID is last digit of network ID.
yes, last digit, last IP of the network ID.
Network ID is 20, right? 20.0.0.
Yes, network ID is 20. First, we need to see the class of a IP address. This is the class A IP addresses. Okay, so by default, network ID is 20.0.0.0, means these 3 octets are host ID and only the 1 octet is network ID. Got it? And for the broadcast, the last number of the IP, the last number of that IP series is 20.255.255.255. Got it? We can assign IP addresses. Minimum and the maximum value of IP addresses is 0 to 255. Got it? 0 to 255. And IPv4 have 4 octets. Means class A by default subnet is 8/8. Class B by default subnet is /16, and class C by default subnet is /24. Got it? Means 4 octet means the each have 1 octet, means here have the 1 octet 8, and here also have the 1 octet 8, and here also have the 1 octet 8, and here also have the 1 octet, means here are the 4 octet. Okay, class A have the by default subnet is /8, means this is only the network ID and other are the host ID. Class B have the 16, means first and the second. First octet and the second octet are the network ID, other are the host ID. In class C, we have network ID is first and second and also the third one, and other are the host ID. Got it? So if I have a let me write the IP ranges over here. Got it, Sandeep, or is it something confusion? So I can clear.
Akshay, what is the 2 power 16 means?
2, 4, 16, where? To the power 16. This one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
Akshay.
What?
Yes. What is 2 power 16 means? Why we are referring 2 power 16 to that IP?
Yes, yeah. So let me introduce 2 to the power 16 means this is the IP addresses of this range. Means if I have suppose if I have IP addresses like that 10.0.0.0/8, and one more I have 10.0.0.0/16, and the class C subnet is 10.0.0.0/24 means I can use only let me write it. If I have this subnet, then I can only use the 256 IP addresses here. 256 means the equal to the power 8. Got it? And if I have the /16 address here, then I can use, I have the IP addresses, a number of IP addresses is 6536 equal to the power 16. And if I have this octet, then I have number of IPs is to the power 32. Let me write the to the power 32. So I have approx 4 billion IP addresses here. Okay. Equal to the power 32. So did you understand that? Where it's come the to the power 32 or the to the power 16 or to the power 8? If not understand,
I
so
got it.
yeah. Hello.
Yeah, I got it. It is the 2 power 32, 2 power 16, 2 power 8. We got it from the table class A, class B, class C.
Yes, yes. The class A, class B, class C. Okay. This here is the to the power 24. Okay. So where it's come from the to the power 8 or to the power 16 or to the power 24? Let me explain more it. Suppose I have write this like that 10.0.0.0/8. This means first block /8 means first number is blocked. Okay. First number is blocked. Rest the three numbers, rest the three octet we can use as a host ID. We can use as a host IP. So in a single octet, we have 25 IP addresses. In a single octet, we have 25 addresses here. And in the 25 address first octet, in the second octet have the 255 addresses, and the third octet we have also the 255 octet here. So if we write same IP as in at the last IP is the 10.255.255.255 means our first IP is that, and the last IP is this 10.0.255.255.255. This is the last IP of my addresses. Okay, so what is the number? What is the number of IP addresses here we can use? So we can use first octet is blocked means here have the 8 number. You can write here 8 and rest the other 8. Rest the other 8 means 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8. So this is the host ID we can use equal to the power equal to 24 and 24 equal to the power. It is total octet is 24. 24 we can use this like that to the power 24 equal to number of IPs between this address and this address. Got it? This is blocked for the
Yes,
this is
clear.
blocked for the network and this is blocked for the host ID.
Clear, Akshay.
Clear? Again, let me clear again it. Why it's come? Okay, why we write to the power 16 here? Okay, so let me give an IP address over here. If I give the IP address is that like if I give the class B IP address here like 132.12.0.0, okay, and /16. /16 means the first 2 octet is blocked. Got it? First 2 octet is blocked. The network ID of what is the network ID of this IP address is the network ID of this IP address is 132.0.0. Sorry, 132.12.0.0 means this is the this is my network address and also this is my network address and rest the address is host and this is also the host. Last one is also the host. So where the 16 is comes from? 16 is comes from the 16 is comes from the 8 plus 8. Here I write the host ID is sorry the network ID is 8 plus 8 equal to 16. Got it? And rest the and for talk about this, and if we talk about this, where it comes from. So let's come to the rest 2 octet. We have IP addresses like that 132.12.0.0. We already discussed the network ID of that IP address is 132.12.0.0 and the network portion of that IP address is 132.12. Okay, and the total number of octet sorry the total digit of the network is 8 plus 8 equal to 16, but for the host IP addresses is let's write it fully /16. So /16 means 2 portion is blocked for the network ID address, rest portion is blocked for the host ID. Each have one octet. Each have one octet means 8 plus 8 is here. 8 plus 8 is here and rest 8 plus 8 is here. 8 plus 8 is here equal to 16. Total is 16. So we can use we have total host ID is this. We have total host ID is this, and the to calculate the total number of the IP So we can easily go through the to the power 16. To the power 16 equal to the power 16 is equal to 65536. And to calculate the total number of usable IP in this address, to calculate the total number of IP addresses is here minus 65. The total number of IP, total number of IP addresses 65536. And to calculate the total number of usable IP, total number of usable IP is total usable IP equal to total IP minus 2. So you can calculate the total number of IP address is here means 655. Total usable IP is 65536 minus 2 equal to 65534. This is the total number of usable IP. Got it? 2 IP, YB minus the 2 IP. 1 IP is
First IP of the that will be a subnet IP, and the last IP will be 256. That cannot be used actually.
yes. So we cannot use the network IP and also the broadcast IP. So the broadcast IP of this network is 132.12.255.255. So this is the broadcast IP address of this IP. Got it? Is it clear to you or not? So should I explain more?
Clear, Akshay. Clear. Thank you.
Clear? Okay. So if any doubt, you can ask me clearly. Okay. So let's go to the one more it. Let's expand this session and so there are two type of IP addresses. I'm talking about only for the IPv4. Let me zoom in first. Okay. If I'm talking about the IP addresses version 4, two types of IP addresses is here. One is public and second is private. Okay, got it. First is public IP address means everyone can access this IP addresses and this is a unique address. Got it? This IP address cannot be same in the network or in the globally. So this is a unique number of IP address. Unique number of IP address. Unique number. Okay. So you can access it globally. If I want to reach, if I want to expose my machine to the world, so I need a public IP addresses. Okay. And the second one is private IP addresses. Okay. Private IP addresses, we use this IP addresses in locally, means in your offices or if in your multiple departments, like in our office we have multiple teams like HR team, IT team and developer team, testing team. We have multiple teams, so we can use the separate IP addresses to a particular team. Got it? So public IP address can be accessible from everywhere. Okay, and the private IP address is only accessible in the local networks. Okay, we can create also our private network into the Azure cloud or in any cloud. So this network is isolated from other networks. We can connect with peer-to-peer connection, or we can connect our on-premises network to the Azure cloud. So that's why we use the private IP addresses or the virtual networks. Got it? Is it clear to you?
Yeah, yes.
Can you explain this point again?
Yes, yes.
We can
So
connect.
yes, yes. So we can create our virtual network in the Azure cloud for connect on-premises machine to the Azure cloud, or we can also connect from Azure cloud to our on-premises machine. Okay, suppose I have Azure cloud here and I have on-premises infrastructure here, and I can create a virtual network into Azure cloud in the subscription. Suppose this is my subscription, and in my subscription we have resource group, and in the resource group I create a virtual network, and with the virtual network I can connect my machine to the my on-premises network with the virtual networks. So virtual network is a isolated networks that represent your network or environment to run your virtual machine or application. Whenever we are trying to connect with a machine or the Azure machine, we need a network, we need a VNet IP addresses, or we need a public IP addresses here. Okay, so we will discuss in further how can we create point-to-point connection or the VPN connection, site-to-site connection, all the things. Okay, so uh, we use a virtual network to connect our machines between each other. Got it? It's provide a isolated environment to our virtual machine and the applications. Clear?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so component of the Azure virtual network, let me draw one more. So the like I have one account, I already explained this. So in my account, in my tenant account, we have a we have a subscription. In my subscription we have multiple resource group, and in my multiple resource group we have virtual networks. Suppose I have virtual networks, uh, maybe one or two or the others. Okay, so in the virtual network I can deploy my machine into the virtual networks if I want to set as the private machine, that no one can access this machine through the internet. So I can uh, use the private IP, or I can use the address space over here. I can make them privately so no one can connect with that machine. In general, we used to launch a machine with the public IP addresses here, that anyone can connect with your machine with the public IP address here. But if I want to hide my machine from the internet, then I use only the private IP addresses here. Got it? Clear, Sandeep, or not?
Clear.
Okay, so let's go to the Azure panel. Let's go to the Azure panel, see what the things in the Azure panel. Virtual network is a separate services. Virtual network is a separate service of a Microsoft Azure cloud. If I search for the virtual network, here you can see virtual network. If I click on that, There is no by default virtual network in the Microsoft Cloud. Okay, if I create a virtual network for my machines, if I want to, suppose right now I am drawing a mesh. Suppose in my account, so this is my account. Azure tenant. Tenant means a directory. In my default directory, I have the subscription. The subscription is pay as you go, as I write here, pay as you go. I have subscription pay as you go, and in pay as you go subscription, I have multiple resource group. Okay, I have multiple resource group in different regions. So let's go to the panel. So I am create a virtual network here. Let's create a resource group for the virtual network. I'm going to create a separate resource group for the virtual network. So let's create it, resource group, and create my virtual network. My virtual cloud, and region is I set region for the US, Asia Pacific Australia. I can select this Asia Pacific Australia. Now review and create. So in the pane, this is in the US Australia region. In Australia region, I create a resource group. Resource group name is my virtual cloud.
We created a virtual network, right?
No. Right now we create a resource group with the name virtual cloud. My virtual cloud. And now we are going to create a virtual network. Okay, so in my tenant account we have subscription pay as you go. In my subscription, I create a resource group into the Australia region. In Australia region, we have subscription, we have resource group like my virtual cloud, and in this resource group I am going to create a virtual network. So here you can see my virtual cloud. In virtual cloud I am going to create a network. Or I can go directly with this virtual networks. Let's create a virtual network. Right now I need to select a virtual, I need to select a virtual resource group. So I select my virtual cloud. In my virtual cloud, I have to give the name of virtual networks name. So the name of the virtual network is my VNet. Okay, this is the virtual network name. I set my VNet 01, or I can give 001. Right now I'm giving my VNet 01. Region is Australia East. Let's review and create. Once it is created, validation is passed. Let's click on the create. So let's draw this thing into the diagram. So I create one virtual network here.
Did we get that IP address range by default, or did we give any?
We have to give the manually. So let's go to this. I create my VNet 1, my VNet 01. In my VNet 01, I have to give the IP addresses. deployment is still in process. Let's go to the resources. Here is the this is the virtual network of my network. So I have to give the subnets and the address spaces. Address spaces is like a number of room, like a room number of a building, like a like a flat number of a blocks or the society. Okay, so in the subnet, there is by default subnet is 2/24/24 means the we can use 256 IP addresses. Okay, but here it is showing 251 available only. But as we read, there is 256 IP addresses available in the /24. Okay, if I write about the /24, let's go to the paint. So if I write about the number of IP addresses is here, let's copy this and paste. Okay, so first three is blocked for the network ID, and the rest one we can use for the host IP addresses. So the total number of IP addresses is host between 0 to 255. Okay, so the total number of host is 256. Got it? Means we also have to count the 0 and 0 to 255. Total number of IP addresses is 256. But here it is showing as available IP address is only 251. Why? Because 5 IP address is reserved by the Azure cloud. Okay, the 5 IP address is reserved by the Azure cloud. Or we can say it is reserved by the Azure network. So let's write the IP address, 5 reserved IP address over here. First IP address is reserved for the network. The number of the IP is 10.0.0.0 is reserved for the network. Okay, and another one is 10.0.0.0.1 reserved for the default gateway. Default gateway means if anyone within the subnet required a connection, required to connect with each other, so it use the by default gateway to go to the outside. And 10.0.0.2 is reserved for the DNS. So it is also an interview question. What is the reserved IP addresses of the Azure cloud? And 10.0.0.3 also reserved for the DNS. And the last number of IP address is 255. It is reserved for the broadcast. Got it? So these are the 5 IP addresses is reserved by the Azure cloud. IP address class may be changed because it's depend on the IP addresses. If I create another subnet or another if I create another subnet here, like let's create a subnet. So I create my own subnet. Okay, I'm going to create my own subnet like Akshay subnet, and I'm going to select a subnet range within the subnet range. Okay, if I select 10.0. I can select 10.4.0. Okay, and let's create it. I'm going to create this. I'm going to create this. Okay, and let's saved. So as you can see, I create a custom subnet for my network, for my virtual network. Here you can also see only the 255 IP address is available. Okay, if I click on that, you can see 251 plus 5 Azure reserved address. Got it? So the 5 address of this IP, 10.0.4.0 is the network ID, 10.0.4.1 is the gateway, and 10.0.4.2 is a DNS, and also the 3 is DNS. 10.0.4.255 is a broadcast. Got it? So if I write the custom subnet here, if I have a IP like that, right now I have a one more IP. Okay, so first 3 octet is blocked for the network. Okay, the host IP of the number of IP address is there. Total number of IP addresses is 256, and in the 256, AWS reserve 5 IP addresses is here. Minus 5. Okay, so the total number of IP addresses, usable IP address is 251. So the 5 reserved IP is 5 reserved IP. This is for the network, and 10.0.4.1. This is for the default gateway. 10.0.0.4.2. This is for the DNS, and 10.0.4.3 is also for the DNS, and 10.0.4.255. This is for the broadcast IP. Okay, so we can use only the 251 IP addresses into my machines. Got it, Sandeep and Mahi? Is it clear to you? Hello?
Yeah.
Is it clear?
Yeah, Akshay.
Okay. And what about the Sandeep? Sandeep, I think you are on mute.
Yeah, yes, Akshay.
Okay, clear?
Yeah, clear.
Okay, so let's go to the address spaces. Let's go to the subnet. I create a default subnet here, 10.0.4.0. Okay, I can also create the address spaces. Address spaces is like your blocks. In suppose I have a building, I have a society. Suppose I have a society. Here is block A, here is block B, here is block C, here is block D, there is multiple n number of block A's here. Okay, so in every block we have multiple flats. But in blocks, in a society block, we have n number of flats over here. Okay, so address space is same like of a block. Okay, so address space is same. In a network we have a block. In a network we have a block address. Like in a society we have block address. Suppose I have to go in A31 block A, and the number of the flat is 31, so I can easily go to the block A, and in block A I have to go into the 31 number flat. Got it? So let's go to the address space once. I have already created the subnets here, and whenever you create a virtual network, this is the by default subnet created into in every virtual network. We can also delete this. Let's go to the address space. So here you can see this is the address space, means you can also customize this, and you can see here the total number of address count is 65536, means here the total number of IP addresses is 65536, means this range is the number of total number of IP addresses is between this range. Got it? We can create custom range over here. Like suppose I want to create 192.168.0.0/16. Okay, and I can also choose the /24. /24, you can see here the total number of address is here 256. If I select here like 32, 32 means only the one address will be there. Okay, if I select /31 means the total number of address count is only the 2. If I select 30, the total number of address is 4. So this is also an interview question. If a network have the /24 means how many IP address in there. So the total number of IP address in there 256. Got it? If I delete this subnet, if I delete this subnet and create as my custom, so this is my custom subnet. Right now I'm going to save it. Subnet default is not in the virtual network. So let's go to the first subnets. Okay, so we need to delete this subnet first. Let's delete this subnet. Subnet is deleted successfully. Now delete also this subnet. Yes, I want to delete this subnet. I want to create a custom address. Okay, I want to create, suppose I want to go into another flat. I want to go into the another my custom flat. I want to go into the my custom blocks. Okay, so if I want to go to the block B, then I create a custom address here, address space. This is the custom, and we can delete this 192.168.0.0/16. Okay, so let's delete this address space and save this. So address is successfully saved and space changed to the virtual network. Means if I go to the subnet, in the subnet option, right now there is no subnet. Now try to create a subnet here, and in subnet like my own subnet, and in own subnet I can give the number of range. I can give the range of a subnet address. Now select it. Okay, subnet is successfully created. Now go to this section. We will discuss these things into the further sessions or further upcoming sessions. So no need to take worry, and let's create a machine in this subnet. See the effect, what we have, what we actually get a IP addresses or not. Okay, so go to the home section, and in home let's create a resource. I'm going to create a Windows server over here. Now I have to select a virtual machine, like I'm going, sorry, I have to select a resource group. I'm going to select my virtual cloud, and in my virtual cloud, I'm giving the name my private machine or my own machine. Okay, I can give the name also. Click on the next. Everything set as default. in the networking section, I can choose my virtual network. I can choose my virtual network, or I can create a virtual network for my machine. So as you can see, in my resource group, we have virtual network like that, my VNet 01. And in my subnet, I have only one subnet here, my own subnet. Select this. And if I want to give a public IP on that machine, then I select this. And if I don't want to give a public IP address to this machine, then I select none. Okay. So let's next add management, and next for the advance. Everything set as default. Yes.
Sorry, can you go to 2 steps back and explain again?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So if I select my resource group, like I am going to the start, let's go to the back. Okay, I select my virtual cloud. This is my this is my resource group name, my virtual cloud. I make a virtual cloud over the Azure cloud. This is like a resource group name. And next to the disk, and next for the networking. So I have one virtual network I created recently, my VNet 01. In front of you, I create in front of you my VNet 01. As you can see in the diagram, I have diagram here. Okay, so I have tenant account and pay as you go subscription. In Australia, I have create my virtual cloud. This is the resource group name, and in this resource group name, I create my VNet 01. This is my virtual network name. Okay, so my VNet 01, and the subnet is, you can select my own subnet. If I want to give another subnet here, so I also create in the subnet section, but I already create the subnet. So I select this. And if you want to give the public IP address to this machine, then you can select this one. This will assign to the public IP address to your machine. If you don't want to give the public IP address to this machine, then select the none option. Okay. So right now I want to give a public IP address to my machine. I select the default option, and everything set as default. We will learn in further how can we play with this, like security group and all the things. Okay. So now next management, and another next and next. Now wait for the verification field, something missing. Okay, let me check. Okay, the username is, I forget to give the username as your user. And now next and next, review and create. Once the validation is passed, it will create my machine into my subnet, into my virtual cloud subnet. So let's first create the machine. Click on the create button, and let's also draw the diagram for it. So in my VNet, I create a subnet here. I create a subnet here. The subnet name is, my subnet, as you see in the diagram. Deployment is in process. In the virtual network, we have subnets like that, subnet, and on the subnet, I have subnet is my own subnet. Here I need to write my own subnet. Suppose my own subnet is there, and In my subnet, I create a machine. I create a Windows machine over here. Suppose this is my Windows machine in my virtual subnet. Got it? And the IP address of this subnet is 192.168.0.0/16. Okay, so let's go to the deployment section. Once the machine is deployed, let's see the IP address of that machine. It is the virtual IP addresses or my virtual network IP addresses. Let's go to the resources. You can see the private IP address of my machine. You can see the private IP address of my machine is 192.168.0.4. This is my custom private IP address. Got it, Sandeep and Rahel? Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes.
So in this session, we create a custom virtual network for my machine. Okay, so let's connect with that machine. Copy this public IP address and RDP and paste this. Sorry, write this IP address .211.32. We can also make a VPN connection in further sessions. So how to connect with the VPN from Azure side. So let's so as you can see, I am able to connect with my virtual network machines. Got it, Sandeep and Rahel? Is it clear?
Yes,
Yes.
Akshay.
Okay. So as you can see, I am able to connect with my machine. Okay. So as per my diagram, with the public IP address here, you can see, sorry. Here you can see with the public IP address, I am able to connect with any machine. Okay. If I have access, I am able to connect with the any machine. But with the private IP address, if I write the private IP address in the RDP, so I am not able to connect with that machine. As you can see, let's cross this one. Okay, so my private IP address of my machine is go to the Azure panel and you can see 192.168.0.4. If I write into the private IP address here 192.168.0.4, you can see I am not able to connect with this private IP address. Got it? The connection is going to be failed.
Why, Akshay, exactly?
What?
Why we are not able to connect?
Because private IP address is not accessible from everywhere. It's work
Okay.
on the locally.
Okay.
Suppose let's go to the this session. If I create another machine, here, as you can see, I already create a machine with the public IP addresses here, and I am able to connect with that machine. Got it? If I create another machine here with the private IP addresses, only the private IP address, I'm not going to assign a public IP on this machine. So this machine in a subnet, by default, these machines can be communicate to each other in a single subnet. Okay, by default, the machine can be communicate with each other. So do you want to see the practical this?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to create another machine on the Azure panel. As you can see, I have already make a public machine over here. This is the public IP address of my machine. and let's go to the Azure panel and create a machine without public IP. Go to the home section, and into the home section, let's go to the let's create a resource. In the resource, I'm going to create another virtual Windows server, and subscription same as my subscription, my virtual cloud, and my private machine. My private. Okay, I set a private machine. What it, and set the username of this Azure next. Add to the disk, and let's go back once, and okay, let's next to the disk, and everything set as default. Next to the networking, in the networking I am going to disable the public IP address of that machine. Got it? So I'm going to select the none option. Okay, and I select the same subnet, same virtual network for this machine as I have. Next, and click next, act tags, next. And now we are going to create a virtual machine with the private IP address. So once it is created, you can see there is no public IP address on that machine. You are not able to connect with any machine. Okay, but I can show you how can you connect with that machine. Once it created, please wait. Okay, so the deployment is in process. Let's wait. Sandeep, are you in the my Telegram group or not?
Not there. Actually.
Okay, I will share you soon the link so you can join by the Telegram group. There is lots of documents, vacancies, and all the information related to the cloud and the DevOps you can see into the Telegram groups.
Okay, we are actually looking for specific location that is for Hyderabad. We are working in Chennai, right? So we are specifically looking for Hyderabad. So Hyderabad the vacancies also available nowadays.
Telegram is available everywhere.
No, actually, he's not asking about
Not asking about
Telegram group. He's asking
I'm
about
asking
vacancies in Hyderabad.
vacancies in Hyderabad.
Job vacancies.
Okay, vacancy. Yes, I already posted some vacancies into the Hyderabad and in for the Hyderabad locations, because I post for all India. Okay, I post for the Pune location, Mumbai location, Hyderabad location, Chennai location, Bangalore location also.
Our main motto is getting a job in Hyderabad. That
Yeah,
is
yeah.
our main first priority task.
Okay, okay, no issue. You will get soon. Okay, so the deployment is completed. Let's go to the resources, and in the resources you can see there is no public IP address to the machine. Okay, but you can see the private IP address is same as my previous machine. Let's go to the another tab and go to the home, and you can see, click on the all resources. In all resources you can see yes, you can see in first machine, you can see the public IP address is here. So I already connect with my public IP address. Okay. And in another, let me drag this, and here you can see this is my another machine, another private machine. You can see there is no public IP address is there, but IP address range is same as the uh, another machine. You can see the 192.168.0.5 is here, and here 192.168.0.5 is here. Okay, so as go to the drawing, let's write some data into it. So this is this machine IP address is 192.168.0.4, and let's draw one more is this machine IP address is 192.168.0.5.
Five.
So in a single VNet, in a same VNet, in a single VNet, in a single subnet, okay, in a single subnet, each machine by default can communicate with each other. Got it? So this IP address is range is same. Also this IP address range is same. Okay. The subnet is same. The network ID is same. The broadcast ID is same. So we can communicate with each other. So can you, so we can do the ping command. Okay. I'm going to the this machine 192.168.0.4. Let's go to this machine. Here, if I open the CMD, if I open the CMD here, command prompt. Okay, so this is my Azure Azure machine command prompt. If I type ipconfig, so you can see the IP address of this machine is 192.168.0.4 and the gateway is 192.168.0.1. Got it? If I ping this to another machine, suppose I want to ping another machine 192.168.0. My another machine IP is 0.5. Okay, if I ping this, I am able to ping with that machine.
Yeah, some.
Okay, so I need to turn off the firewall once. Got it? Also,
Okay.
I am able to do the RDP locally. I am able to do the RDP locally if I set 192.168.0.5. So as you can see, I am able to do the RDP on the remote machine. I can easily connect with the private IP addresses. Okay, in a same subnet. Got it, Sandeep? If I write Azure user, so you can see I am able to connect with my private machine.
Okay,
Okay.
vice versa can happen from 05 machine to 04 also can happen, right?
Yes, we can also vice versa. We can connect with machine from each other. I can also able to connect with 0.4 to 0.5 and 0.5 to 0.4. So as you can see, I am able to connect with the private IP addresses. Okay. So as per my drawing, you can see this is my public machine. Here I also write here. Public IP address is assigned to that machine. Public IP is assigned to that machine. Okay. And also the private IP is assigned to that machine. But for this machine, for this VM, only the private IPs exist. Now I am able to connect with this IP to this machine and also vice versa. Got it? I am unable to do the RDP between the machine, because these machines are in the same subnet. Okay, these machines are in the same subnet or in the same network. Got it? But if I'm trying to connect with my laptop with private IP, so let's suppose RDP and connect with that 192.168.0.5, that I am not able to connect with the private IP. But if I try here, if I try on the on this machine, if I try on this machine, I want to try to RDP, take the RDP for this machine, so that I am able to connect with that machine. Got it? And also I am able to connect from this machine to this machine.
Okay, got it.
Got it?
Yes, because the first VM is having public IP, so globally anywhere we can access the public IP.
Yes.
First
And
VM.
through the public access, access, suppose, let me clear once more. Suppose I am here. Suppose this is my laptop. Okay. Suppose this is my laptop and I am able to connect with the RDP through the public IP, and this will connect my laptop to this machine virtually. Got it? And with this machine have the public IP address access here, and now I am able to connect with that machine through the public IP addresses. Same as you can see, this is my another machine. There is internet access and I can do the RDP here. If I write here like cmd
Okay.
ipconfig, sorry, in the small letter, ipconfig, as you can see, this is my private IP addresses. Okay.
Okay,
Got it?
okay. Actually, by default, our Azure VMs are having internet.
By default, Azure VM have the internet, but if we want to make it private, then we have to uh, assign the private IP address on my machine. So you can see I have access of my public IP address. I have access of my public IP machine. Okay. So as you can see, suppose this is my laptop. I am able to connect with that machine with the public IP address. So suppose this is my laptop. I am able to connect with this machine through the public IP address is here. And this is in the same subnet. That's why we are able to connect with this machine through the private IP addresses. This is
Yeah.
in the same subnet. That's why we are able to connect with that machine. So
Yes.
for connect with that machine, first we need to take the RDP of the public machine. So here is the public machine RDP. In public machine RDP, we need to again run the RDP for the private with the private IP address. Okay. So the private IP address of my machine is 192.168.0.1, as you can see in the diagram. 192.168.0.5. Okay.
Okay, Akshay. How about in Linux? Linux also we need to connect first with public IP to VM1. Then after logging into the public IP of VM1, then we should do SSH to the VM2.
Yes, but here we use the credential, username and password. But in the Linux, we need to use the key. That's why we need to upload the key through the remote machine. Then we are only able to connect with that machine.
Okay, you mean to say we need to amend the key of VM1 into VM2 authorized
Yes,
keys?
yes, we need to import both the keys.
Okay.
So as you can see, I have access of my private IP also and the public IP also. Okay. Clear, Sandeep?
Yes, Akshay.
Yes.
Okay. Any confusion related to the virtual network or the public IP or the private IP or anything?
Today's topic is clear. It is more complex but clear. Today we need to elaborate more on this by our
Okay.
one.
So you need to repeat it 1 or 2 times. Okay. But it is clear. It is enough. Okay. If you do this machine practically with the diagram, always make a diagram and then make a lab. Then only do a lab. So it is more clear to you. Okay.
Okay, Ji.
Okay. In a tenant account, I have pay-as-you-go subscription. In pay-as-you-go subscription, I have region Australia. In Australia region, I create a resource group, and in resource group, I create my virtual network, and in virtual network, I create a subnet. In subnet, I create two machines over here. Okay, one for the with the public IP address access and one with the private IP address. So if I need to connect with the if I need to connect with the private IP addresses, then first I need to take the public access through the public IP address. Okay, then I only able to connect with my private machine. Got it? So we can use this scenario as a real time. Suppose I have this machine is my web server and another private machine is my database. Okay, we can set as the database machine or set as the database server, or I can give the private access to my database. So this environment is also like a real-time environment. Got it, Sandeep and Mahi? Is it clear?
Yeah, yeah, sir. Yes,
Okay.
section. Yeah.
Okay. So we will see something more deep dive into the virtual networks. How can we secure our network? How can we uh, protect our network? How can we peer the network? And how can we make connectivity between the resource group or between the region or between the subscription also? Okay, suppose this is the resource group 1 and also the same scenario is here. Like I have VNet, another VNet is here, I have one another VNet is here. How can we connect with this machine to this machine? How can we make pairing? Got it? How can we make connection between them?
Okay.
Okay, so today is enough or not? So should I give more?
Yeah, enough, Akshay. Enough.
Okay,
Mind became too hot.
mind become too hot.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to upload this video on YouTube channel. Please see and subscribe. Okay.
Okay. Also, we request you to please share this diagram of
Okay,
paint.
okay. I'm going to share this diagram also in the videos. Okay.
Okay.
No,
Thank you.
that group we are doing also.
Please share this diagram separately in the group WhatsApp
Okay,
chat.
okay. Sure, sure, sure. I'm going to share all the diagrams into the set. Okay.
So add us in the Telegram group also,
Okay.
and
So
also,
if you
do
want
we
to,
have any do we have any session tomorrow morning?
yes, we tomorrow is the Saturday. Yes, we have session in the tomorrow morning. If you want to, Sandeep and Rail, if you want to join into the Telegram group, then just simply type on the Google t.me/Cloudakshay. Okay. If you open this link, then automatically open my group. So it will automatically open my Telegram group. It's take time. If you want to see all the links here, so you can search the Cloudakshay into the this, and you can check all the links here. So, yeah, this one is the
Join
link.
Akshay, join group.
Yes, Cloudakshay. So as you can see,
Join.
you already joined.
Yeah, just now I joined.
Okay, okay, thank you. So this is the group. Okay. Got it? And I also share this flowchart to you that it will easily understand to you. Okay.
Okay.